You know, if you're a regular viewer of Alive and Wellness, you know that we talk a lot about the soul on this show, embracing it, tapping into it, where to find it, how to find it. But does the search for soul have to be so deliberate, maybe even so desperate as some people seem to think it is? Well, our next guest certainly thinks that it is not such a desperate or difficult quest, and she guides us towards simple soul examinations in her new book. It's called The Quiet Voice of the Soul. Let's say hello to Tian Dayton. Welcome, Tian. Liked your book very much. I especially like what it's trying to say because so many bestsellers out there and the like are talking about like extravagant, elaborate journeys towards soul. You're saying that it's all around us every day, easy to access.
Yes.
How so, and why did you want to give us this message?
Well, we can't avoid soul. If we don't want to avoid soul, it's everywhere. And it's our personal right. It's like the air we breathe. By quieting down and going within ourselves, we can have a soul experience that's unique to us, that fits our lives, that can help us connect with the spiritual energy that gives life the kind of meaning that makes it worth living.
You call it soul energy a lot. Is it worth it to define what soul is as you know it?
As I know soul, it's that part of us that makes us want to live. It's that part of us that looks at a sunset and knows that we're more than what we see, that we're a part of a larger plan, something beautiful, something meant to be here, and that we're alive.
So it's not just personality, it's not just experiences, it's that little voice
It's
inside.
that one energy.
That one energy, yeah. Now I should let folks know Tian is a clinical psychologist, so much of this information came out of your dialoguing with your patients, which we'll talk about in a minute. But your own story is interesting too, because it involved a crisis, it involved your relationships at home. So many of us think you have to go through crisis to find your soul awareness, but that was a factor in your life. Talk about it a little, would you?
My cancer experience?
Yes.
When I was 35, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I felt young to have cancer. I had 2 young children, a young husband, and it
came
cervical cancer suddenly. I had no warning, no idea. And the doctor looked at me, and it ran down statistics that had me going from just fine to dead in 30 seconds. And I said, "What is it, doctor? Where am I going to fall on these?" And he said, "You know, we're all terminal in this room. You just found out about it a little sooner than the rest of us." And since that moment, I have valued life differently. I know I'm going to lose it one day.
I see what you're saying. It sort of opened that portal to other experiences. You didn't have a spontaneous remission or anything. You're well now, which we're real happy to know, right?
You know, but I went into, frankly, a deep state for 5 days and decided to get well. And I got well. I had an operation. It was modern medicine. And I really do feel that the part of it that I seldom talk about is the decision I made within my own heart to live.
And you'd never consciously said that to yourself before?
Well, I said it privately to myself, but never on TV.
Interesting, I understand that. But isn't that typical of so many of us? We never really stop a minute and say, and maybe this goes to the point of your book, to say that actually what your contribution is in this dialogue.
Well, you know, I've observed with my own clients that the clients who get well are the ones who decide to get well. The clients who change their lives are the ones who decide to change their lives, and who really, in the depths of their being, want to. I really believe that I can help anyone who truly wants to get better, and that I probably can't help anyone who doesn't truly want to get better.
Understood. So there we talked about crisis, but again, let's go back to these everyday moments. You mentioned a sunset, you mentioned so many things like this, but when things aren't going well, or when you have a tendency to want anger to be the dominant emotion, how do you get around that?
Stop, pause, witness the emotion. Have the emotion without acting it out. Respect the emotion, understand that it's part of you, you have a right to it, you can't avoid it. Fighting it and repressing it doesn't work. We all know that. Acting it out doesn't work, it just gets us into more trouble. Sit quietly, experience it, have it, hold it, learn from it, and let it go.
Sounds so simple, but easier said than done. When you're caught in that moment, So as a therapist now, what do you tell them? I mean, those things you just said, but is it about meditation? Is it about...
It's about being your own best friend. It's about not getting into another fight with yourself, because the greatest fight we have is with ourselves. It's not really with the other person, it's the battle within. If you can master that battle within, you can master the battle outside. And the first step to mastering that inner battle is to be willing to be with yourself as you are. Not as you wish you were, but as you are. And if you have a bad moment, that's okay.
That's self-acceptance. You have a lot of aphorisms in the book, and one was from Carl Jung, of course, the psychologist, psychotherapist. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely.
I know.
Why are we so afraid of that?
I think we're afraid of what we'll find. We have so many ideas of what we should be that we don't calm down and say what we are is okay. It's enough. In any case, it's what we are, and we can't do anything about it. And a lot of times we survive feelings rather than have them.
Survive them rather than have them.
You know, and when we just survive them, we don't learn anything from them. We don't grow from them. We don't find meaning in them. We just get through them.
Now, see, maybe this goes to the point. I was wondering, how do you know, is every soul awareness experience one that we're going to grow from? Some have to be more important than others. Which ones are to be survived? Which are to be learned from?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure how to answer that. I think live through as many as you can live through, survive the ones you don't have any choice about, and bookmark the ones you survive.
Bookmark them.
Say, okay, I survived this one, I'm going to come back to it later. I'm going to come back and live it. I can't get through, I can't live it.
It may not resolve itself, in other words.
Many, many things don't get resolved. I think that's one of the illusions we have. The resolution happens in the experience. When you think about it, if you have a powerful feeling, you have it, you learn from it, you see it differently. Jung says that too. We never really solve a problem. We just climb to the top of a mountain and learn to see it differently.
Now, see, I think that's a real important point, don't you? Some things are not resolvable.
They're not resolvable.
Yes.
Most things are not resolvable. Many
Good
things.
point,
We just learn to live with them differently.
Differently. Pat in Alabama's calling. Got a thought, Pat?
Yes, regarding getting quiet and getting in touch with yourself, sometimes when we do that, I find that people misinterpret that as arrogance. How can we come on differently without people getting the wrong interpretation?
Good question, G. And I have a follow-up to that, in fact,
She said people...
She said people misinterpret going quiet for arrogance, almost as if she doesn't have to deal with certain issues. I think I know what she's saying. Do you follow?
I think I know what you're saying. I think, first of all, this is something you do for yourself, and don't be afraid to do it for yourself. If someone misinterprets you and your motive is sincere, stay with your own motive. And be sincere with yourself. Go within.
No explanations necessary? Do you try to explain to the people who are challenging you?
I would not feel you owe someone an explanation necessarily. If you're really sincere in trying to get to know yourself and get to the bottom of something, just understand that they don't understand it for that moment. You don't have to describe them. Maybe that's not what they're arguing with you about anyway. Maybe it's something else.
Something else goes back to that point of it's yours. It's your issue, you know. And the follow-up I have to Pat's question is, when you go quiet, a lot of painful things come up. So you don't want to deal with that. What do you do with those painful pieces?
That's probably the most important thing. That is, have and witness the pain. Be willing to stay with it, to breathe through it. I think that's where just plain breathing becomes very important. If you can quiet your breathing down and center yourself, you can have a painful feeling go through your system. You know that feeling when it's painful and you feel as if there's a knife in your chest. You feel you're...
But you're so scared, too. You're scared this feeling isn't going to pass.
And that's the moment when you clamp down on the feeling, you repress it, you pretend it's not there, and you crush it inside of yourself. Breathe deeply, calm down, allow yourself to have the feeling, and you'll get through it. That's really all you need to do. You'll learn what you need to learn from the feeling if you can have it.
And this is the soul talking to you at those points.
This is the soul talking to you.
I got you.
This is part of your personal truth. This is not some disembodied aspect of self. This is the real you.
Not dysfunctional. Not that.
Dysfunctional.
Got it. One more call from Alabama. It's Gail. Hi, Gail.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. I would like to know what advice you can give to a person who is shunned by an outward appearance-oriented society, which cannot get beyond your outward appearance and never get to know the real you.
Great question. Short answer I have to ask for. Unfortunately, our time is a little short.
Short answer. We all want to see answers as outside of ourselves. The answers are really within ourselves. If that's where your answer is in, then you're ahead of the game. Be a leader. Be a leader. Stay with your own truth and show people.
And show people. It's a constant battle. We all step through that every day, you know, I think. Thanks, though, for the call, Gail, very much. Tian Dayton, it's a beginning to know the quiet voice of the soul. Thank you so much for a few minutes with you.